Hey guys, what's up? It is week 267, and I got a bunch of reviews for you, so let's hop right into this. The first one up is from the MVD Marquee Collection, and this is the Fabulous Baker Boys. It's from 1989. I just heard of this in passing, to be honest. So, it has Jeff Bridges, Beau Bridges, and Michelle Pfeiffer are the big stars in this one. So, 89, Michelle Pfeiffer is pretty hot stuff. Jeff Bridges has always kind of consistently been a beloved actor, and his brother Beau Bridges, which is nice. Beau's significantly older, if I'm not mistaken, but right away, it's awesome to see two brothers get to act together. There are numerous movies, but not that many together. If anybody doesn't know, their father is Lloyd Bridges, another classic actor before their time, obviously, and he became kind of a more comedic actor later down the line. But yeah, so this one follows two pianists that have like an act together. They've been acting or performing together for 31 years for something like that. And they've been like kind of on the road for 15 years doing these shows and like kind of dive bars. And they have a complete difference in, kind of attitude and everything like that. So Beau Bridges kind of handles all the bookkeepings, the bookings, all this kind of stuff, the kind of upfront stuff. And he's not as good or I guess as artistic of a piano player as Jeff Bridges. But Jeff Bridges kind of acts too cool for school kind of attitude, but he's clearly has a little bit more under the surface. So they clash on their personalities and all this kind of thing. Jeff Bridges is wonderful in this movie. To be honest, like, gun to head, like if you had to say one of the most iconic American actors or best, like Jeff Bridges is in so much stuff, all the way back from the Last Picture Show and everything. So he's just in so many good films and so many memorable films, and he always does a very good job. So you got to give it up for Jeff Bridges. So like I said, I'm not as familiar with Beau Bridges, but I did really like him in this, and I loved seeing those two act against each other. Michelle Pfeiffer comes in, and they're looking for kind of to spice things up to maybe bring more appeal to their show as a singer. And this movie does have this moment where they have the montage, because this movie is like a comedy, drama, romantic deal, but it's not I'll laugh out loud funny. It's more, I guess, I don't even want to say intellectually funny, because there is some, generic cheap jokes, like the montage when they're testing people out to be the front singer. We have all these different kind of eccentric characters that are just really poor at what they do in extreme ways, right? And we have that in like so many 80s movies, or so many movies in general. Even stuff like the first one that comes to my mind is Let's Get Harry, which is an Uncommon Valor type story where they go into like a war-torn place to rescue their friend. They have like a montage scene where they interview mercenaries, and one of which is David Hess. So that's what it makes me remember. And it's always a comedic, over-the-top thing here. And it's just like verbatim, this scene is in like every movie. So essentially what happens is they end up hiring Michelle Pfeiffer. She's really excellent. She's a call girl, so it adds this layer of kind of sexiness to her, sexual intrigue, I guess. And of course, over time, Jeff Bridges and her kind of start a relationship, and they climb up the ranks. And this complicates things. It kind of shows like, what Jeff Bridges wants out of his life and what Beau Bridges wants and all this kind of stuff. And there's some really great acting moments with the two brothers, especially when they kind of start reminiscing about old times. And I guess a lot of the comedy routine comes to the bickering between all three of them. That stuff works really well. Yeah, the music's great because it's a lot of like I would say maybe like jazzy piano stuff, but classic piano stuff and all this kind of entertainment stuff. And there's a lot of smoky cinematography and different kind of bars. And like I said, it's not laugh out loud funny, but it is funny, especially they're in like the club trying to perform, and there's just loud noises and distractions and all this kind of stuff. And the height of the insanity kind of happens when Beau Bridges books them on a kind of like a cheaper version of the Jerry Lewis kind of money kind of what is it, like the Money Drive or something like that, so Charity Drive. So as far as the special features are concerned, this is executive producer Sidney Pollack, and that makes a lot of sense. We have an audio commentary with the writer-director Steve Kloves, hosted by Twilight Time Julie Kurgo and Nick Redman, who has passed away, unfortunately. Audio commentary by director of photography Michael Balhaz. Isolated music and effects track, The Fabulous Baker Boys 1989 behind-the-scenes featurette, only about 7 minutes. Jeff Bridges and Beau Bridges 1989 behind-the-scenes, 3 minutes. Michelle Pfeiffer 1989, 3 minutes behind the scenes featurette. And deleted scenes at 21 minutes. And the movie runs about just under 2 hours if I'm not mistaken. So that extra 20 minutes would have been quite an add-on to this movie. But I had not seen this. I had not heard too much about it, but I did definitely enjoy it. It's good to mix things up and not watch only cult movies. This might have a cult following though because of who's in it and everything like that. But it was kind of a nice little change of pace, a kind of refresher. But anyways, I enjoyed it. It looked and sounded pretty good. I thought the surround sound. It's not like a big like mix 5.1, but a 2-point mix. It was pretty good. Sometimes you get these 2 points, these audio mixes that are 1 channel, 2 channels, but they don't play very well. Like you'll hear like the wrong things coming out of the wrong parts of the speakers. This one was done very well. So Fabulous Baker Boys, check it out. And there's this whole other side story with Jeff Bridges and his dog, which kind of gives you some humanity to his character. And there's a couple blow-ups and stuff, like I said, that are really good with the characters. So check out the Fabulous Baker Boys. I enjoyed it. Good stuff. And yeah, long leg Jeff Bridges. He's excellent. So. And Michelle Pfeiffer too, Jeremy, who's on the show, loves Michelle Pfeiffer, and the good reason. She's very good, and like it's weird. Sometimes a lot of these actresses tend like you forget, you don't remember them, and you're like, or people in general from the '80s, and you see them pop up, and you're like, whatever happened to that person? I'm sure Michelle Pfeiffer's been consistently working. Hopefully she has, but sometimes people start changing it and they're not in the movies you're invested in anymore and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyways, did Michelle Pfeiffer pop up in Mother? Well, I remember one of these classic actresses from like the 80s popped up in Mother, and I feel like it was Michelle Pfeiffer. Anyways, yeah, check out the Fabulous Baker Boys. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Pretty good. The next one here is from the MVD Rewind collection, and this is Monday Morning. And of all the years of checking out movies and everything like this, I had never heard of this film. I maybe I don't even know if I ever saw the cover or anything. I never took note of it. Monday Morning, and this is a directorial debut of Don Murphy, who's more of a producer. And the actor who I knew in here was Jason Lively from Night of the Creeps. He's in one of the National Lampoon movies. So yeah, Monday Morning. Now, the director kind of describes this in the making ofs and stuff like that, the featurettes, as kind of like a Breakfast Club 80s, but made in the 90s. This is 95. But I guess a little bit more kind of extreme to a certain extent when it comes to like in-school violence and everything like that. So essentially we have a group of kids that are there entering this new school, and their parents are just there to work in an industrial area or something until everything gets set up. We have kind of this troubled young man who wants to be a musician and all that kind of stuff, and him and his father butt heads, of course. One day he starts kind of like this relationship with one of the locals and everything like that, and this kind of upsets her brother, who is just a real psycho, 80s psycho. He feels more like an 80s psycho, even though it's 95, but your typical, James Spader role or something like that from New Kids. not as extreme, but damn near close, okay? So essentially he has his group of thugs, one of which is Jason Lively, like I said, from Night of the Creeps and the National Lampoon. One of the, I don't remember which vacation movie, the kids always changed between them. So essentially what happens is one day it kind of escalates in the school. Somebody brings a gun, and everybody thinks that this young man is fully responsible for someone getting shot and all this kind of stuff, and there's a police standoff. The movie has a very strange tone, and I don't know if it comes down to the writing or the acting. Don Murphy pretty much did everything on the film, and it's just got a very strange, it carries over to the 80s feeling, but it also has that 90s kind of like cheese-tastic kind of quality, and it's like, it's not intentionally like kind of cheesy and everything like that, but it has like that layer of cheese. So like the characters takes things that are just like, whoa, or they're a little over the top, or the dialogue lands a little clunky. At one point there's a very funny kind of scene during a hostage situation where the police detective, his son, is actually in there, and he's like, hey guys, I brought you some food. It's pizza. And the kid's like, cuts back to the kid, and it's like because it feels like a little too much air in between the shot, and the kid's he's way too cheery for the situation. He's like, thanks dad, cool. And it's just very awkward in that kind of way. Like it's obviously that the filmmaker does know what he's doing to a certain extent. Like, I mean, this is his first film, and later on he would produce many hits and all this stuff, including Double Dragon. He was behind that. So like to say like I badmouth somebody's first movie with this numerous amount of cast members in it, it is like, it is what it is. It's a first film with a lot of cast members on a budget, throwback to the 80s, and it has a 90s cheese. Now, I do think some people will find this unintentionally funny at moments, especially the over-the-top acting from certain characters in the film. So there, that is there as well. But it does kind of have like like if people wanted to write like more in depth, like these characters' lives at home in the Breakfast Club or something like that, and that's nowhere near as quality as the Breakfast Club or anything like that. But as far as the special features are concerned, we have what is it? We also have an original VHS version under the title Class of Fear, which is what he wanted. He didn't want Monday Mornings, even though they incorporated a song, a hit song too in here. Interview with writer director Don Murphy. 52 minutes, which is nice to hear. Enjoyed that. And Don Murphy, portrait of a producer, 24 minutes. That's where he talks a little bit about his career. And this guy's worked with tons of people, so he's kind of a bigger name in production, obviously, now than he was directing films. But the 52-minute making of, like the interview with him, he goes into depth how this thing got made and all the finance, all this stuff. It's pretty in depth and interesting, to be honest. And he definitely loves films. And Monday Morning, like I feel like a lot of people might really enjoy this kind of movie or something at this time, because and it's like you could get something out of it, but you could also get a couple laughs out of it. But at the subject matter alone, guns in schools is obviously not something that a lot of people are going to want to watch now. But hey, I mean, at the same time, maybe you could check out what they were doing in '95 with it. This is before Columbine and all that kind of stuff, and it's a different kind of gun in a school movie. That sounds weird, but that's the way it is going to be. MVD Rewind Collection. Check it out if it sounds like it's up your alley. Okay, the next one is from Full Moon Features, and I believe this is one of the 10 movies they had made, and this is Baby Oopsie. Yeah, this is a sequel, kind of just Baby Oopsie's getting her own movie from Demonic Toys and Doll Man vs. Demonic Toys and Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys. So Baby Oopsie, and this is actually directed by William Butler. And now William Butler was an actor originally. He popped up in stuff like Night of the Living Dead 1990, Friday the 13th Part 7, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, Ghoulies 2. He was in a lot of movies, a slew of films, and then he became a director and a writer and stuff like that, and he worked on a lot of independent movies. Now, when we covered 2005, we covered Return of the Dead 4 and 5, and I said that it was one of the most poorly written movies of all time. He wrote him. So then I felt really stupid when somebody told me, William Butler wrote a completely different script than what was made. He wrote Zombies in a Roller Coaster Theme Park. So, like, you can tell, too. Like, the movies are very sloppily directed and everything and just don't really make any sense. You're not sure which chronological order any of them are supposed to go in. They shot the wrong one first or something like that, try to patch it together. So, regardless, I'm going to apologize to William Butler, even though he probably won't watch this, but just for the fact that I was talking shit about the writing in those movies, and my understanding is that he wrote something completely different and they put his name on it, and I don't think he got what he wrote 100%. I wish those movies had special features on there and stuff like that when I watched them, because I was very interested in what the hell happened behind the scenes of Return of the Dead 4 or 5. Now let's get into Baby Oopsie. So the plot of Baby Oopsie is pretty fun. And I think this one was actually one of the ones made in Cleveland area, so that's really cool too. I'm an Ohio guy myself. So yeah. So we have this kind of, I guess, famous YouTuber. She does reviews of dolls. She brings dolls back, not reviews, but she brings dolls back to like reconstructs them, antique dolls and all this kind of stuff. And she's like this kind of overweight woman. She's very strange. She lives with her, like, I think, stepmother, and they have a bad relationship. Of course, it's kind of by the book in this kind of situation, but all the characters in this are super over the top and ridiculous, from the mailman that's trying to be your friend, to the neighbor who's absolutely ridiculous, to every character, to some punk bullies that are riding around that pick on a full-grown woman. So it's very much, like tropey, goofy, playing on those tropes and being silly at the same time. All the characters are like just absurdly weird, like they're from a trauma movie or something along those lines. So one day she gets this baby Oopsie in the mail. It's all kind of messed up, and she starts to put it back together and everything like that. And eventually, of course, Baby Oopsie, this is her mother now, so she starts picking off some of the people that are causing her trouble in her life. But that's not everything that's going to happen, right? Baby Oopsie is evil, if you've ever seen Demonic Toys. So Baby Oopsie's got some tricks up her sleeve. So yeah, and of course we're going to have a showdown and everything like that. So this was funnier and goofier and just more self-aware than I expected from a lot of the more modern day Full Moon stuff. Really isn't my jam. From Ouija's and stuff like that, I didn't care for that. So like I just really didn't care all that much. So but like at a certain point, you got to remember that now, like, I guess a little bit more independent people, different voices are directing these movies, even though William Butler worked on Ginger Dead Man as well. So it just, I thought it was much better than expected. Like I enjoyed it. Just like I said, most of these newer Full Moon movies aren't my jam. I love their older stuff from pre like 2000 and stuff like that. Was all, I like that kind of style. But this one it had some good laughs, some ridiculous characters. I think that if you have a group of friends and you're sitting and having some party favors and everything, I think you'll get a kick out of it. And there's some gore and all that kind of stuff like that. And the doll, the doll's better than a lot of really low budget dolls. And I don't think there was that much CGI used. As far as the special features are concerned, we have a behind the scenes, a video zone, all dolled up, and full moon trailers. So, anyways, Bad Baby, very very bad baby. Anyways, I'm sure it's better than the Iron Cross, Blade sequel or Blade spin-off movie. I've not heard too many positive things about that, but this is Baby Oopsie, better than expected from Full Moon. Yeah. Okay, the next one up is from Kino Lorber, and this is The Good Son. Directed by Joseph Rubin is the name, I believe. And yes, this has Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood. David Morris is in this. And in 1993, this movie, I was about 7 when it came out. I definitely did see it. It definitely left a lasting impression on me, honestly. So yeah, The Good Son was one I really never forgot. Thought it was a good time to rewatch. So I popped it in, and the first thing I noticed was, the score was by, who was it? Elmer Bernstein, classic composer. I was like, well, that's excellent. The Great Escape, Stripes, all tons and tons of bigger, older movies and everything like that. So, and then he switched to comedy with Stripes and everything, and did a lot of comedy scores for a while. So he switched him kind of back with this. It's a little different score, I guess, for him at this point, even though he's done tons of scores, but the score is good. And I noticed the cinematography was really excellent. The movie opens up in the Southwest, and we see the mountains in the background and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, yeah. And I know later on they switched to New England, so then they kind of explore that. There's a lot of establishing shots of the city, beautiful location, that kind of thing. They definitely classed it up with the cinematography. Although some of the wider shots, you see some people that aren't supposed to be there. In the cliff scene, there's somebody standing there, and then in the wide, you could see stunt double, but the stunt double stuff, it's come on, they weren't expecting you to be able to put a microscope on everything now with your televisions and stuff like that, so that's easily forgivable. So essentially the plot is Elijah Wood is the son. He has a sick mother. David Morris is his father, and the mother passes away. Elijah Wood's young in this, very young, of course. And he's sent to live for a couple weeks while his father takes care of some business with his aunt and uncle in New England. Macaulay Culkin is his cousin, and he has another cousin there, a girl, which is actually, I believe, Macaulay Culkin's actual sister. So he moves in, and he's obviously having a hard time adjusting to life after the loss of his mother, and he's got a great sadness about him. Macaulay Culkin and him kind of hit it off at first, maybe, possibly, question mark. And, until you kind of realize that Macaulay Culkin is your classic evil kid. Think Bad Seed or something along those lines, or any of those kind of evil kid movies like that. So, and it starts off small, just kind of kicking him in the leg under the table, and then eventually it escalates where he shows him his dark side. It's very funny because these are the kind of movies that I think people from different countries would watch, and just if they don't know better, would be all these Americans are so rich, because every movie in the 90s, everybody, and you're either dirt poor or you're super rich, in the, you know what I mean, in movies you're never actual middle class, or just how middle class people live. They never actually portray that ever, right? I mean, the closest you probably get would be E.T. or something, right? And they probably have way more money than a lot of people. Just a single mother, if I'm not mistaken. It's anyways, I don't know. It's been a long time since I watched E.T. But you know what I'm saying, right? It just feels like everybody's a millionaire, or everybody's a dirt farmer. There's no medium, and there's no accuracy, to be honest, as far as I can tell. I did know people that live like this, but they most certainly weren't the typical. So anyways, Macaulay Culkin's acting in this, he kind of goes for the dead-eyed sociopath in a lot of ways. The manipulative, when he turns it on, you can tell he's turning it on, and in a lot of ways he seems really dead, but also just kind of blank stared in a lot of ways. And Elijah Wood, I think, is the better, or more, I guess. It's really hard to compare their performances, but Elijah Wood's always been good, and he's good in this too. But it has a lot of iconic scenes that I never forgot. The dog chasing them, the nail gun revenge, all this kind of stuff here. And of course the gaslighting from Macaulay Culkin, it can be aggravating, right? It is in a beautiful location. Like I said, the cinematography and the music is very professionally well done. The acting is solid, and especially from the adults, they're all good too. Now I know this movie got a lot of heat on Letterboxd, and I just it's not not that horrible. I mean, I think it's pretty good. It could be a product of me seeing it at a young age and being, having a connection to it, most definitely. But the actual hate it is getting from a lot of people is just like, come on, guys, you guys ain't never watched, a movie that cost $6 and filmed in the backyard, because I like a lot of those too. So they just don't understand true crap. So like, I understand maybe they say it's soulless or whatever, but I really don't think so. Like, I thought that was entertaining, and I thought it had the very ending. Like, everybody remembers that ending. Like, I remember like just asking people, what would you do in that situation as a kid, and just like have it just it's a powerful ending, right? And it has like, it does feel like it could be a little bit by the numbers now, but in the 90s this was probably the template for Killer Kids movies. I don't remember when Mikey and Milo came out. There's 2 other Killer Kids movies, and then The Paperboy. So we had a lot of Killer Kids movies in the 90s. I covered at least 2 or 3 in 94. Three Killer Kids movies in 94, and it was the typical Killer Kid, like one kid or something and he's off, not your Children of the Corn style cult of kids killing, like who can kill a child or kill Children of the Corn or something like that. So like, we have a lot of these weird individual kids killing people in the 90s. As far as the special features are concerned on The Good Son, first and foremost, I'll say that it sounded and looked really good. Macaulay Culkin, why am I saying Macaulay Culkin? Anyways, it was David Morris' interview with him, and then the ones who played Macaulay Culkin's parents are also interviewed on here. And then finally, I believe the director and the DP are both interviewed on here as well. So that is nice. If you like the movie, then it has some features on there as well. That is The Good Son by Joseph Rubin, starring Macaulay Culkin, Elijah Wood. Yeah, check it out. Could do a lot worse. Okay, next up is the Patreon pick from, I believe this was Chris Rivers, and he has never let me down. He always picks classic, good cinema, and this time around he picked The Chase by Arthur Penn from 1966. Arthur Penn actually directed Bonnie and Clyde, and he directed Little Big Man with Dustin Hoffman, which is one that I have seen. That's the only Arthur Penn movie I had seen. I know, crime for not seeing Bonnie and Clyde. So what we have here is The Chase, with a great cast, as Robert Redford, very young in here, 30-year-old Robert Redford, and it has Marlon Brando, and there's just a slew of other people in here, like going down the list. A lot of Robert Duvall is in here, and it has an amazing big large cast. Everybody's top notch in here. E.G. Marshall, who the more I see, the more I like. I mean, he's just a tremendous actor, from 12 Angry Men to Creepshow. The guy's really good. And of course, so is Robert Duvall. I mean, like, the dude's been acting forever, all the way from To Kill a Mockingbird, and he never lets you down. So Marlon Brando is an actor that I know, and I've seen a handful of things, but of course, The Godfather. But I haven't seen as many early Marlon Brando movies as I should have. I've seen a lot of the 70s and stuff like that, and then even into the later days where, they always said he had cue cards and he just was a pain in the ass to work with, hence Island of Dr. Moreau. So I've seen those. But, man, Marlon Brando is fucking excellent in there. Newsflash, Marlon Brando, a good actor. I mean, he's the one that so many other actors from the 70s looked up to and aspired to be Marlon Brando, right? So anyways, what we have here is Robert Redford who is his name? Bubba Reeves. He has committed some sort of crime, and he's kind of like on a chain gang, work farm, prison, and him and another prisoner kind of escape. And this other prisoner ends up beating a guy to death. So that makes it even worse. Robert Redford's obviously bothered by it. He's headed back to his hometown. And the sheriff, local sheriff, who is Marlon Brando, he gets word about that he's coming back. And other people in the town start to get word of it, and it kind of causes this mass hysteria while Robert Redford's on his way back to kind of find his wife. It complicates things because his wife is dating the son secretly, having an affair with the son of like the richest guy, who thinks he has Marlon Brando in his pocket as well. And a lot of the small town folks in here, they have a lot of like intricate details with each other. So essentially, Robert Duvall works at the bank as kind of an assistant manager, as does another man. I can't remember his name. And Robert Duvall's wife is sleeping with that other assistant manager, and so it complicates insanity. Robert Duvall's character is completely meek and shy and everything. So it sets all these kind of different characters up, and it's just the worst set of circumstances and the worst series of events unfold to cause this kind of tragic ending of the film. And it's going to be tragic right from the first 20 minutes of the film. And at the first 20-30 minutes, like I said, they establish a lot of these characters really well. well. And there's these three kind of idiots, including one of the assistant bank managers that's not Robert Duvall, that they introduce them. And the way they're introduced, just kind of giving the sheriff a hard time about, so-and-so Val Johnson is basically has him in his pocket and all this kind of shit. And you hear that 2 or 3 times before you even meet Val Johnson. So when you meet Val Johnson, you're like, oh, this is E.G. Marshall. He kind of runs the town with all the money and all this kind of stuff. Special treatment, has the sheriff in his pocket, which he doesn't really. And a lot of people think a lot of things about the sheriff that aren't true. Anyways, like all these characters, these idiots are introduced, and at first it starts off as like, badgering him a little bit, kind of joking, and like, there's 3 of them, and later on when the one is just kind of introduced, and he's like this quiet rage, you can just sense it right away. Like, you're like, that's the dangerous one, and like, I said that right away, and then it pays off. All this stuff is set up really well. So Robert Redford comes back to find his wife and all this kind of stuff, and he can't immediately go there because everybody's looking for him, and like, it just shows this small town mentality, this bigotry, all this kind of stuff so beautifully. I love the movie. I think it's tremendous. I think the acting is tremendous. I think all the character interactions and the dialogue is just wonderful, and it's really messed up. Marlon Brando is excellent. Robert Redford's excellent. E.G. Marshall is great. The script is great. The direction is great. I have no complaints about this movie. I think it's amazing. It's an amazing film. Super happy to have watched it. And like I said, it's one of these movies that its message is right in your face. Like it does it in a way though. Like it's I wouldn't even say like exactly isn't a message, but it just shows. It paints this town. It paints what can be wrong with people in general, and how they work, and mob mentality, and just ignorance and not minding your own business. So it's like it's just a bad town, like in general, like, and the sheriff doesn't want to be there, and it's just he's stuck in the middle of this hell, and just somebody that commits a petty crime is the one who ends up doing jail time, or for getting blamed for lots of things like that, while people that are just genuinely awful people are probably not going to get in much trouble anything. But that's The Chase. Excellent movie. I rented it on Amazon Prime. I know if there is a Blu-ray, I will pick it up. It's definitely worthwhile. And initially when he said The Chase, I thought he was talking about the Charlie Sheen 90s movie, and I was like, well, I hadn't seen that in years. Are we going to do The Chase from the 90s, 96 or something like that? I was like, I wouldn't mind watching that, but I'm glad it was this one. Excellent movie. Definitely going to try to check out Bonnie and Clyde ASAP. I know he's got a slew of other movies too that I'm sure I would love, because Little Big Man is a good movie too, even though it's been years since I've watched it. Anyways, that is The Chase. Okay, now we're going to hop into those 1980 movies.
They did this to you! They're trying to turn us against each other! Just look at them. What do they know about friendship anyway? I'll get them. You watch. I'll take care of those sons of bitches.
Watch it, Alan. I'm shooting.
Oh, good Lord. It's unbelievable. It's horrible. I can't understand the reason for such cruelty. It must have something to do with some obscure sexual rite, or with the almost profound respect these...
Getting very careless. Blood in your hair. What will we do? You want to look pretty, don't you? Pretty for me.
I can't believe you're not afraid.
All you have to do is piss on it.
Goody cat blood, ain't you? God damn it, Ralph, get out of here. Go on, get. Leave people alone.
You'll never come back again.
Oh, shut up, Ralph.
It's got a death curse.
Evil.
Down my leg! Down my leg!
I'm here. You're here. There's a fog bank out there.
Messenger of God, you're doomed if you stay here.
Demanding everything, including blood.
John, I want this material burned. All of it.
who attacked me, the one who pulled me underneath the water. And he's still there.
Used servitude.
I think you will all meet again. In hell.
I'd have mercy on his soul. He was one ruthless son of a bitch.
Wendy. Farewell, darling. Light of my life. I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
Well, Dad, are you proud of me now? Do I measure up? Huh?
My son was a son of a bitch, and he was no good. That's it. My son is dead. I don't want to talk about him no more.
Oh, Cindy, you're gonna die.
Mater lacrimarum.
Ma'am,
Mater tenebrarum.
we didn't find any boy.
Mater suspiriorum.
You know as well as I do, it takes all kinds of critters
To make Farmer Vincent fritters.
I wonder who the real cannibals are.
And the first up is New Year's Evil. That's right. I'm going to be a little short with this one because, let's be honest, I never was the biggest fan of New Year's Evil. I don't hate it or anything like that. So when I decided to rewatch it, I was like, what's the best kind of way to watch this movie for me? Not being a huge fan of it. I watched it with some friends, and we kind of were just having a good time, relaxing and watching the movie. So the details on New Year's Evil, you're going to be a little kind of jinxed on those or ripped off on those, to be honest. And I do apologize, but at the same time, when you're watching a lot of movies from 1980, you want the best viewing experience for yourself. So New Year's Evil for me was watching it with a couple friends and a couple drinks and just having a couple laughs. And I know, not at the expense of the movie. I know that's kind of shitty, but it has that certain cheesy quality that a lot of the actors and I believe the filmmakers involved kind of mention that, it's got that 80s kind of camp cult kind of thing going on, and it definitely does. So essentially, this movie is, one of the holiday horror movies. We have Halloween, Black Christmas, My Bloody Valentine. We have a lot of these holiday-oriented slashers and stuff like that. And New Year's Evil is one, and I've always joked around. I said this movie is so lucky it takes place on New Year's Eve, because everybody's like, well, we got to find a New Year's horror movie, and it's like, what? New Year's Evil's right there. So a lot of people check it out. So it does have a really fun soundtrack because we're following this like kind of like hostess or host, like MTV host, as she's doing a countdown on New Year's Eve. And there's a lot of bands, a lot of 80s hair metal kind of stuff going on playing. And so we get a lot of music in there, which is kind of something I think a lot of people like about the movie. That kind of big hair, big fun 80s music. And the, like, goes into the streets in the movie too. There's a lot of punks all around and everything like that, which is always a fun staple in 80s movies. Class of 1984, all that kind of stuff, right? Return of the Living Dead. So anyways, what happens is we have this slasher that's going around and just like murdering people, and every time he calls in after every murder, because every time there's a time zone that's going to hit and turn New Year's into a different time zone, he murders someone and he calls, and he's got like this voice box, and of course everybody remembers evil, call me evil, and he's making his way to this kind of MTV party place where he's gonna, you assume, kill the host and everything like that. The person who plays the killer actually popped up in Magnum Force. He said that in the special features. Like, oh shit, he does look very familiar, and he's really good in this. He's really creepy, and he has a solid performance. Who is it? Grant Kramer from Killer Clouds from Outer Space is in this too, and an over-the-top ridiculous performance, no doubt. There's a lot of kind of side actors that are just ridiculous acting in this. Like, there's like standing there real stiff, really cheesy, and that kind of stuff is appealing. A lot of the murders are off screen, which is kind of a poo-poo for a slasher, which is another reason you're just like, yeah. There is a sex scene here and there, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple of the murders are on screen. One of the characters like that gets killed has like a chase scene. I remember being kind of really dark. She has like the plastic hair. That one was a really well done kind of a murder. And there is a twist, a reveal, and all that kind of stuff at who the killer is and all this and how he relates to some of the characters. As far as the quality of the movie, I mean, I like how it looks, the light, the 80s setting, the music, and all that kind of stuff. As far and like the plot's a little slow. It doesn't deliver on a lot of the things you look for in a slasher movie, but it is certainly a memorable one just by title alone and a couple moments in the movie. So New Year's Evil, I mean, a lot of people adore it, and I could see why to a certain extent. It has to like have that like cheesy connection connection to you, it doesn't have much of a connection with me, but I don't hate it or anything like that. So as far as the special features are concerned, I believe these are from the old Scream Factory release, and I don't know if this is a new scan or anything like that. So we have the audio commentary by director Emmett Alston, moderated by Code Red's Bill Banana Man Olsen. There we go. The Making of New Year's Evil, featuring interviews with cinematographer Thomas Ackerman and actors Kip Niven, Grant Kramer, and Tafid O'Connell. And that's very entertaining. Actually, a little bit more entertaining than the movie. Newly commissioned art by Vince Evans and theatrical trailers. So, good music, good time. Have some fun with New Year's Evil if it sounds like it's up your alley. Is there a slip on there? Same one. So, yeah, check it out. Okay, the next one up is another re-release from Kino that was originally a Scream Factory release, and this is another 1980 movie, and this is from Graydon Clark, and this is Without Warning. Now, this one is definitely more up my alley, and it's been a year since I rewatched this. I think I had, was there ever a DVD, or did I watch a bootleg? I think this one never really got released on VHS or DVD, or never got a DVD, went straight to Blu-ray. Maybe I watched it initially when it got released on Blu-ray. Can't remember, but I've not watched it since. Yeah, the cast in this is really good. We got Jack Palance, Martin Landau, early role by David Caruso, and Kevin Peter Hall, who plays the alien, who would go on, obviously, to play the Predator. This movie has a very similar plot to Predator, almost the same, and that the idea that Kevin Peter Hall, who played the Predator, is in here as well is like, I know what somebody did. I'm just kidding. And then, of course, we also have Cameron Mitchell in a very crazy role. Ralph Meeker and Neville Brand pops up in here. So we got a bunch of character actors. And funny thing is, the two leads are the least noticed people. You know what I mean? They're not as memorable to me. But that's kind of what you do. Larry Starch is in here too. I know that name, and he's pretty ridiculous in there. He plays the Boy Scout kind of cub leader. So, yeah, essentially what we have here is these kids are going on your classic camping trip. They get a warning from Jack Palance at this gas station. He's like, don't go up there, yada, yada, yada. Your typical crazy Ralph kind of shit, right? So they decide to go anyways, screw them, right? And pretty quickly, the two of them are dispatched. The other two go into town for help, and they run into this bar, and they run into Sarge, who's Martin Landau, who is this, ex-military guy who's witnessed aliens before, and all around the town, he's kind of considered a local kook. Or also at the bar is Neville Brand and Ralph Meeker, knocking some beers down. Don't think they were acting too much. I'd really like to know the beer budget on this movie, considering all the people in here. There's probably a lot of drinking going on. But yeah, so anyways, you can kind of see Sarge starting to snap almost immediately after this, and it just becomes this crazy kind of Sarge going nuts, and Jack Palance trying to fight an alien, and these two kids stuck in the middle trying to survive. Very memorable for Jack Palance just screaming alien while running at it. I love that scene. And I'm a big Jack Palance fan. Everything I see him in, I always say his name wrong too. I always say Jack Palance, and then I try to pronounce it correctly. I'm like Palance. I just always do it. It's just something I always do. I know it's just me. I just love him in this movie, and he's just really intense and just bonkers as shit. Graydon Clark did so many movies. He did Uninvited with the killer cat on the boat, which is a lot of fun. Satan's Cheerleaders, Black Shampoo. He had so many other ones too. Wacko. He's kind of a fairly prolific joysticks, director that did a lot of cult movies. Without Warning and Uninvited are my favorites that I've seen. Just they speak to me. That's just straight up my alley. Those kind of crazy, weird B movies. But this one, the alien looks really good. He looks kind of like a mixture of your typical alien and then just a little bit more human. One of my Jesse Van, one of my Seth Thorson from Abraxas. I'm looking for a woman. Sorry, really weird reference, but he kind of has the bulbous head that you would expect, the Greys and stuff, but he's really tall, and he has these crazy weapons that he throws. They're these little parasitic creatures that latch onto people and start eating their insides and everything like that. In the beginning, there's a really good kind of Cameron Mitchell scene, which I believe had to be a reshoot, and Cameron Mitchell and his son are hunting, and Cameron Mitchell is such a fucking prick. There's this moment where he points the gun at his son, and he thinks about it, and he's like, Anyways, love Cameron Mitchell as well. Martin Landau, over the top as hell. An interesting little note, in 1982, Martin Landau and Jack Palance would kind of reunite for a really cool slasher called Alone in the Dark, which not your typical slasher, I wouldn't say, but it's a really cool movie about some escaped mental patients when they just like going out during a power outage and attacking some people. Anyways, this one is a lot of fun. Like I said, it's got its moments. It has some downtime, but one of the characters is killed at a point you really don't expect it, and I can appreciate that kind of stuff for sure. As far as the special features are concerned, we have audio commentary, producer, director Graydon Clark, Greg and Sandy's Alien Adventure interviews with actor Tara Nutter and Christopher S. Nelson, Independent Day interview with cinematographer Dean Cundy, of course, who would go on to do legendary Carpenter movies and Jurassic Park. Good cinematography, and it shows. And then we have Producers vs. Aliens, interview with co-writer and co-producer Daniel Gronick. Hunter's Blood, interview with special effects makeup effects creator Greg Canham. And Trailers from Hell with Mike Mendez. Newly commissioned art by Vince Edwards. And I like this art. I think it's pretty solid. It's got Jack Palance on there. And of course, Martin Landau and an alien. Anyways, check this one out. A lot of fun. There is a chance this will make my top 25 from 1980. I'm just saying there is a chance. You never know. Without warning. The next one up is a real heavy hitter from 1980, beloved by most, and this is John Carpenter's The Fog, with a great cast here. You got Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, Hal Holbrook, Adrienne Barbeau, Janet Leigh, Buck Flower, John Golf. So it's got a really great little cast in here. Very entertaining movie. Charles Cypher's in here. So yeah. So this is after, of course, Halloween from '78, John Carpenter. So this is a nice little ghost story. Really, really good atmosphere, of course. Carpenter, really great score, Carpenter. So essentially what happens is the movie opens up with kind of this old man. He's like, like he's somebody, classic, actor, maybe before my time to where I would register who he is. Probably a blind spot. But he's reading this nice ghost story and telling these kids about this old group of people that died. The lighthouse was out and they crashed on the rocks. And he said, when the fog rolls in, they'll come with the fog, yada yada, for the revenge. And it's just a really nice setup. And then we kind of go to, I don't remember exactly the details here, but we're introduced to the characters like Tom Atkins is kind of a middle-aged guy, and Jamie Lee Curtis is this hitchhiker, and he picks her up, and they have a relationship between a young and old. They always make the joke in this one. Adrienne Barbeau does the radio show, does the weather. She's like a DJ. She's from the light tower. I can't believe I can't remember the freaking name. Lighthouse. Jeez, I grew up in a place that was a peninsula with lighthouses wherever. You know what I mean? So I should know what a fucking lighthouse is. So she's in this lighthouse where she does a show and everything like that. And in the very beginning of the movie, we have this great scene. It's set up wonderfully where it's like these people, these fishermen on their boat. They're having some drinks. There's three of them. One's played by Buck Flower. He's always in Carpenter's movies, and the other's played by John Golf. I believe I'm saying his name right. And this guy and Buck Flower had a relationship, a friendship, that they were in tons of movies together, from Tammy and the T-Rex to Berserker from 1987, the slasher movie. So these guys are in a bunch of movies together. Alpha Incident, just lots of good stuff, and they always have good chemistry. So this is kind of one of my favorite lines in the movie. They're hearing Adrienne Barbeau talk about the weather, and there's a fog bank coming in. There ain't no fog bank out there. Wait, there's a fog bank out there. And it sets up this beautiful scene where these ghostly figures enter the ship, and it's genuinely scary, super atmospheric, and they're all picked off. So after that, we kind of follow this mystery story. It's approaching Antonio Bay. That's the places. They're bicentennial and all this kind of stuff. So and there's a priest in Hal Holbrook who finds this old book bricked up in the wall that tells what really happened, how this town got its money and everything like that. And it involves, that story, the ghost story. So it's just a really well set up story. It unfolds really well. And every time the fog rolls in, people end up dead. The actual figures that are stalking them look wonderful. You'll see them on the cover here, this commissioned artwork. In the film, they're hidden in the fog, and they're done really well. It's all atmosphere. The music is great. They have these wide shots of, you see the fog rolling in with the lighthouse. It's just a really good movie. It's just a really solid, objectively great ghost story from 1980. Personal favorite, not my personal favorite of Carpenter's movies or anything like that, but I genuinely see this movie being a very approachable movie for most people. Most people will enjoy this. The acting is solid. Janet Leigh kind of runs the town, commissioned to like celebrate this big bicentennial and everything like that. So like I would really recommend checking The Fog out if you haven't seen it. I mean, newsflash, The Fog is good and popular. Yeah, I mean, like, what do you want me to say? Like, everybody's seen The Fog. I feel like everybody likes The Fog for the most part. It's just varying degrees on how much you like it or enjoy it. Tom Atkins is the man, even without his fucking mustache. I said it. Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, she's good in it too. I mean, the dialogue between Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis is charming. Obviously, now people be like, oh, what the age difference there is crazy. But yeah. You know, and it's not super gory. It does have its moments, but everybody in the movie's solid, and the church is great looking. And I just don't have that much to say about The Fog that hasn't been said. You know, I don't have some inner light on it that and then what he could say. You know, it's just a movie that, like, if you know, put on during Halloween or put on when your mom or you're somebody that is not a horror fanatic like yourself wants to watch something scary. The Fog is a perfect one. You know. Or Poltergeist or something like that. I think these movies, they're good kind of like branches too for other people to check out. So as far as the special features are concerned, I know there was a 4K release recently, and I'm sure that Scream Factory re-released this one with a 4K master, and I'm sure it will have a 4K down the line. I'll probably upgrade this one. So new audio commentary with writer-director Carpenter and writer-producer Deborah Hill. New audio commentary with actors Adrienne Barbeau, Tom Atkins, and production designer Tommy Lee Walls, who would go on to direct many films, including the 1990 miniseries It and Fright Night 2 and Halloween 3. In a new interview with Jamie Lee Curtis, Tales from the Mist, Inside the Fog featurette, Fear on Film, Inside the Fog featurette, The Fog storyboard to film featurette, Horrors Hollow's grounds, a new look at the film's locations. We have outtakes, theatrical trailers, TV spots, and photo gallery. So we got a nice collector's edition, older release. One of the first from Scream Factory, right? One of the first ones I remember getting and being very excited about. So yeah, that was back when they weren't the only game in town, but they were most certainly one of the most well-respected games in town. Now you got a lot of competition now with, you know, Arrow and Severin and Vinegar Syndrome putting out a lot of 4Ks and Blu-rays themselves. So anyways, The Fog, if you haven't seen it, please see The Fog. It's great, you know. The next one here is not exactly a horror film. It's more kind of like a exploitation kind of drama, but it fits in there too, in the vein of like maybe a Straw Dogs or, you know, a Death Weekend, I would say, which most people consider these kind of rape revenge films, horror to a certain extent. Not all of them, of course. I don't think Straw Dogs is, but I would consider Death Weekend one. I don't know why. That's just the way I am. So what we have here is Wolf Lake. Yeah, so this has Rod Steiger in it, and who else is there? Richard Hurd is in here, Peter Manatee. I can never say his name, but it's just I got a few character actors in here. Really, there's only like 6 people in the entire movie. I had not heard much about this. Burt Kennedy, this guy did a slew of movies that I've actually covered a bunch. He did Return of the Magnificent Seven, and I can't think of. He did a couple more that I really liked. I'm skipping out. I forgot what they were, but anyways, he's a solid director. Did a bunch of movies. So Wolf Lake. You know, I had wanted to see this one forever. I actually had a VHS of the sucker, and then they released it on Blu-ray, and I was like, well, I just wait for the Blu-ray, and then I eventually got to it when 1980 was drawn, and I was like, cool. This kind of stuff is totally up my alley. What we have here is 4 hunters. This kind of even has like a revenge kind of. Remember the movie Revenge? It came out a couple years back, 4 or 5 years back, where like that kind of plot here. We have these 4 hunters that are going up to this lodge, and their friend that they expect to find there, the guy who runs the place, isn't there. Instead, there's this young guy there, 23, and his girlfriend. And right off the bat, you see this generational gap between them. And Rod Steiger kind of makes a joke about it. And this guy seems irritated from the bat. Rod Steiger says, you know, so and so, and he's like, and they makes a joke about his long hair and the beard. I can't tell with that long hair. You might just, if you're a guy or a girl, it might be a bearded lady under there. And like, and the guy's really not having much of that. And Rod Steiger seems like kind of a prick, but he's trying to be jovial in his asshole kind of old man way, and this guy's just not very approachable either. So right off the bat, you're like, this is not going to end well. You meet all the friends. One guy seems to have been with Jerry Harding, the actor, but he seems to have been with, you know, Rod Steiger for a very long time, and they have a special relationship, you know, being in the same military at the command, whatever. I believe he was his commanding officer. And Richard Hurd's in a bunch of stuff, character actor. He was in Seinfeld. He's just in tons and tons of movies. And the other actor, Peter, I always say his name, Manitou, he's in Day of the Animals. He's like, I think he's got the bad leg and everything like that. So like, I recognize almost all these guys. It's like very cool group of hunters. So, you know, they have like the interactions and everything, and you could tell the intensity is picking up. And the location is beautiful, right? Kind of isolated location, lake, and the woods around. And somehow they figure out that this guy possibly was a Vietnam deserter, and that's not doesn't sit well with Rod Steiger. He lost his son in Vietnam. And like right away when he finds out, he kind of has like this crack in him. And Rod Steiger is anything but subtle in his performance. Anybody seen the Amityville Horror or anything? Rod Steiger is a pretty big actor, and a lot of times it works, and it works in here. But he just kind of has these long, crazy speeches. And I remember he had him in stuff like The Big Knife, where he arguing with Jack Palance, bring him up again, and like he's just all this like kind of crazy stuff. So like he has these arguments with this guy, and they go back and forth, and you can just see the difference in how these people, how people approached Vietnam, or how they thought of Vietnam, the older generation. A lot of like older actors and stuff, like John Wayne came out saying he was for the Vietnam, all this kind of stuff, right? So like you could see that divide in them, and it's very much right on the heels of Vietnam. So it's interesting in that aspect. And what happens is things get very ugly because Rod Steiger will not let this go. And he kind of gets the other guys liquored up, and they do something that's really awful, and this guy takes his vengeance, and this starts this kind of, it's not going to end well. A lot of people are going to die here. It's not going to be a great day at Wolf Lake. And so, yeah, and that's exactly what happens. It ends very tragically. There was one shot in here where I was really kind of shocked they did it, because they don't show you what one of the things that happens, which I think is well done, but they do show you the aftermath, and that person is naked, and I was just like, I didn't expect to see any pubic hair like that. And it's just like, without showing it, but just showing the aftermath like that, it was just like, that's almost just as effective, if not as effective as it, to be honest, because like just seeing that like the day after and everything is just like, oh, wow, that's pretty rough. But, yeah, like I said, they do set up some things, pretty obvious things like, well, this thing here, yada, 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 don't like the chainsaw plays a factor in there, don't think it's going to be like a gore fest or anything like that. But anyways, it worked really well, and I enjoyed it. I think it's a really good kind of, I wouldn't even call it is exploitation, I guess, in some ways, but it's classier than that, and it's saying some things too. It is listed as horror on Letterboxd. The director, Burt Kennedy, like I said, he's since passed. There's nothing on here about him, but there's a producer on here who's talking about the movie, and talks about how this one didn't really get any release and everything, and how he like saw other people trying to release Vietnam movies, like, you guys are fucking crazy, and then they seen that they had success, and he's like, I don't know how, just kind of got SOL on that. But there's an interview with two of the character actors, Richard Hurd, who's since passed away, and the other, I want to make sure I get this guy's name right, because he's one of the most interesting characters in the movie for me. Jerry Hardin. I just felt like his like kind of delivery and his kind of character was just one of the more interesting kind of characters that's really apprehensive about any of this, doesn't want to do this and everything like that, but has this loyalty to Rod Steiger for whatever reason. But I felt like his character was one of the better ones, to be honest. Everybody's good in it, though. But their interview is nice because they're old friends, and, they tell some stories about it and working on this and working on other movies. Richard Hurd seems to remember a little bit more about, their working on other films and all that kind of stuff. But, he brings up this kind of stuff, too. But it was nice to see these two kind of old character actors talk about this movie a little bit and everything like that. And R.I.P. Richard Hurd. But this is a good film. I really liked it. And I think that, like they said, Rod Steiger was a little let down because he thought he was going to get another Oscar. But yeah, anyways, there is a lot of people like Rod Steiger nowadays. That's just the truth, and I don't think any of these characters in here are unrealistic. So, I mean, what they do at one point seems a little over the top. But hey, sometimes people do real awful things. So Wolf Lake, check it out from Kino Lorber. A lot of Kino this time, man. Can't go wrong with Kino, I guess. Okay, the next one up is Sex Hunter 1980. Definitely more of an exploitation film, kind of a pinky film. And this is actually directed by the guy who did Evil Dead Trap 2 and Evil Dead Trap 3, aka Brutalness of Happiness. Brutal, I don't remember the real title to it. But, Sex Hunter 1980. Definitely get your pervert card out for this one. This is a pervert card pick. And like you'll get on Letterboxd and people like, this is Suspiria. Because it's in a ballet school and it's well shot or it's interestingly shot, I don't know about all that. But this is a real kind of sleazy movie. But it's also well made because the director is good. He knows how to make a freaking movie, right? So there's some memorable faces in here. A lot of these actresses I've seen pop up in other things. So I guess we're gonna get into this weird, complicated story here. So we have this young girl. She's performing this ballet, and I believe this girl that approaches her is her sister's, her boyfriend's sister, and she's like, I thought you were wonderful. Why don't you come go to my ballet school? Yada yada yada. It's a prestige school, and right away she like shows her what. There's a beautiful scene where she gets this thing of roses, and she reaches to grab them to read the name tag, and she gets pricked, and it's just like that's perfect, visual storytelling there, or foreshadowing, right? That these flowers come from someone that they seem beautiful on the outside, but really they're dangerous, and they're going to hurt you. So I like that. That was nice. So she goes to the school, and this lady shows her like immediately these weird sexual acts, orgies, and all this kind of stuff, and it gets really graphic right off the bat. And after a while, she's kind of forced into this, and there's a male teacher that comes out, and he performs all these they rape her, of course, force her to lesbian acts, and then rape her. She loses her virginity, real grody stuff. And after that, she's put through a series of tortures, one of which is a soda enema. That's the first time I've ever seen a soda enema. I think it's a vaginal enema. Not that it makes much of a difference. Both pretty awful. To see anything like that. I mean, I think I've seen enemas in movies. These Pinky movies. A couple of them had it, and of course, water power. But I've never seen a soda enema. Now, does an enema have to be in the rectum, or can an enema be vaginal? I don't know. These are the questions that we need to know. I'm not an enema expert, I'm not an EE. So anyways, like visually, like there's a lot of good shots. I mean, the people are all really, the women are gorgeous, but at the same time, you're like seeing like lots of weird stuff here. Horrible stuff happened to him, but obviously it's a Pinky film, so it's supposed to be titillating. Anyways, so what happens is her old boyfriend shows back up, and his sister, who got her into the school, obviously is trying to hide her from him, but she has a thing for her brother, so we have this incestuous act. And what it kind of folds down into, she's been like forced into like this sex with all these people, and she's like a sex maniac now. And it goes to this wheelchair sex scene, which was something I've also never seen. Wheelchair sex scene. There's a lot of first times in this one for me. And it ends in this kind of crazy, weird orgy with like double mirrors and everything. It's like visually, there's a lot going in here in the frames and everything. When she initially shows her the orgy, we're at a double mirror here. So we like have her looking like at her, and like we see the orgy in between them. And then we have like a reflection of the rapist guy back here. So it's like all this shit in the frame. And that happens a lot. We have a lot of stuff going on in the frame. So it has like, it's a lot of interesting, weird stuff going on, and it's like grody and just kind of pushes the boundaries and everything. So that's Sex Hunter, 1980. Evil Dead Trap, much better movie, of course. It's pretty much a classic 80s Asian film. If you're interested in that, check it out from Unearthed Films. I know the sequel's coming out too, not directed by the same guy, but still a very good movie. This guy also did a movie called Mermaid Legend, which I've been meaning to watch forever, and he did a couple other ones. I like I said, I think I've covered some of his other movies too, and he's a good director. He's got a good eye and everything like that. So check out Sex Hunter if it sounds like it's up your alley, if you're into Pinky movies, or if you're a pervert. I think you will enjoy it to a certain extent. Okay, I'm going to be relatively quick with these next two, and this one is a Spanish film, To Die of Fear, if I'm not mistaken. There's not too much about this one. Now, this is a Spanish kind of 1980 movie, of course, and it's like a gaslighting story, fairly predictable in a lot of ways, and it's pretty much a three-hander, three kind of actors in the entire film. So the biggest actor in here for me is like Simon Adrau. He's in a bunch of movies. He's in a couple Jose Larraz movies. He's in The Blood Spattered Bride. You'll recognize him. He's in Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion. He's in tons of shit, right? He's a classic Euro actor. Still working till like this day, I believe. I still think he's alive, still working. So essentially what we have here is this guy. He has a heart condition. He's loaded though, and he can't even have sexual activity. He basically has his new wife, and he wants to go to this old manor with her and everything like that. He has mommy issues. He listens to tapes of her. She's recently passed, and pretty quickly we kind of notice that there's someone else in this house, and he's starting to screw with them. And eventually you're like, it's got to be some weird gaslighting kind of story where people are setting each other up, and it eventually turns into a ghost story without spoiling too much, but, someone dies, and there is money involved, and there's a real cool moment where, like, it's a year of the anniversary of that person's death, and we kind of start to have, like, a weird kind of supernatural element where the same stuff's coming on the radio. I was like, this is a nice touch. Kind of felt like, how, like, Beyond Terror from this year also used, like, the radio to kind of put forth supernatural elements like that. But as this one progresses, I thought it was decent. Like, it's a well-shot, well kind of done movie, but it's very kind of predictable, too. It's better better than like similar gaslighting stories like the Hammer movie from 1980, the Hammer House of Horrors one. I can't remember what it's called. It's very generic. I covered it. It was my least favorite of the Hammer House of Horrors. But, this one does have its nice touches and everything like that. And it actually does turn into something cool and supernatural, similar to that one. But anyways, this one, if it sounds like it's up your alley, it's a super rare movie. I did enjoy it, but it is kind of a little by the numbers, and there's not too much to say about it. But yeah, that is To Die of Fear, I believe. So, I mean, that kind of spoils exactly what's going to happen here, but there is a little bit more than that. So, anyways, well acted, though, too, and has some sexy time if you're interested. I don't think it's super sexually explicit or anything like that, but I do remember seeing, some other reason. It looked like a TV rip, so I'm just like, well, I don't know what. Maybe this was cable in Spain, because, like I said, it's a rare movie. So if it sounds like it's up your alley, then check it out. It's To Die of Fear. Okay, the next one up is from 1980 as well, and has That House in the Outskirts. And I believe this is also a Spanish film. It's by Eugenio Martin, who did great movies like Horror Express, wonderful movie. And he also did The Fourth Victim, which is a solid giallo. I guess it's not a giallo if it's Spanish, right? I think it technically is not a giallo. But, Spanish thriller, probably Italian money in that one as well. So anyways, this one here, The House in the Outskirts or something like that. I'm going to mix up the titles. I'm not going to say it too much here. This also, this one felt like kind of a less of a horror movie than you would expect. We have this woman who's suffering from some illness, or she seems to have like some sort of problems, and her husband and her go out to this new house, and they're supposed to stay there for a while, and right away she's starting to have like these visions, and like almost like her reality and fiction start to blur, and she sees like this kind of medical place and everything like that. The lady renting them the room is what's her name? Alda Valali. I mispronounced her name, but she's in Suspiria, Eyes Without a Face. She's in dozens of movies. It's Nothing But a Game Mama. She's in tons of movies. You recognize her right away. Classic Euro horror actress. So anyways, what happens is so like she starts to like have these visions in her reality, and you think she's losing her mind, but there's more characters in here who aren't on the level, and this house really isn't on the level either. So the more you figure out about the house, what it used to be, the more you figure out about the story. You figure out about her past, you figure about other characters' past, and there's a reveal towards the end of the movie. And before that, there's not really any violence or murder until that reveal happens, and then some of the characters are killed or attacked in a fairly brutal way, and we find out everything that's going on. And it does take a little long to get these kind of details. So like, it's an okay movie. Like it's okay. It's not perfect. It is interesting, with some context or some more like background or maybe a better print. This movie could be a little better because it's not poorly directed. Obviously, the director has style, and he's pretty good at what he does. Seeing Horror Express, and like the music isn't bad. The same goes for the other movie too, To Die of Fear. I believe that one of the other had a good score. I can't remember which. I know that's very, very bland, but these two kind of bleed together because they have a lot of similarities. To Die of Fear, I think, is the better, more complete, less boring movie, if that makes any sense. And I don't want to say it's boring. It's just it takes a long time to get started, and by the time it starts to get started, it starts to end, and you're kind of like, well, I would have liked a little more of that, or maybe we should have kind of started this a little earlier and everything like that. And like the reveals are pretty much the fun part of the movie, or the interesting part of the movie, and the subject matter is interesting too, but the problem is the description spoils all that stuff. So by the time you even read a description, the whole movie's spoiled for you, so you're just waiting for things to happen. That's not exactly the movie's fault. But yeah, that is The House. I gotta look at the title again, because seeing the Spanish title is what reminded. But That House in the Outskirts. It does not fly off the tongue very smoothly, to be honest. So yeah, not a great one, but an interesting one for people that are curious in this kind of stuff. All right, we're here for You Ain't Seen. And I picked this for you, right?
No, I picked
it. No, I picked this for you.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because you picked Little Shop of Horrors last week.
Oh, yeah.
So I picked The Clockwork Orange, directed by Stanley Kubrick, 1971, based off, what is it, Burgess? What's the...
Anthony Burgess.
Anthony Burgess novel. This is a classic movie you haven't seen, and you're a big fan of 2001 and Doctor Strangelove.
More so Doctor Strange.
Yes, not so much The Shining. So I figured, let's try another one. So anyways, yeah, I'm familiar with this movie. I've seen this a handful of times. Always liked it. Pretty much kind of a classic, right? And one of the early controversial classics from that time, 1971, starring Malcolm McDowell. Really kind of the main star of the film. There's other people in here, including Patrick Magny. And who else? A lot of familiar. There's a couple character actors in here which are really wonderful, including the guy from Life Force and the mummy movie from Hammer, the fourth one, Blood of Mummies from the Mummy's Tomb or something along those lines.
The Darth Vader, right? No.
What are you talking about?
Who plays Darth Vader? In
Oh,
Frankenstein?
he's in here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big tall guy. He's also in Vampire Circus. He's in here as well. So I can't remember his actual actor name. But anyways, I don't even know how to go about this plot. Futuristic society where the young go to this milk bar, which is just slang for some sort of weird drug, and they relax, and then they go out and commit a bunch of atrocities and violence. Malcolm McDowell is a sociopath. He doesn't listen to anybody. He just lies. And he eventually gets caught. He gets put into some prison where he has this weird program that causes him to have a violent reaction to sex and violence. And then he is victimized by the people that he once made victims. And then, of course, we have the crazy ending. I know that seems like just a kind of basic plot, even though it seems weird, but there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of crazy interactions amongst characters, a lot of reveals, it says a lot too, and it's also very darkly comedic, which I don't think a lot of people touch on. I know a lot of people see the bleakness and the cynicism in human beings, and mental health and all that kind of shit, but there is a darkly comedic element to it. So what'd you think for the first time watch?
Oh, it's fantastic. It was
everything you hoped for?
Yeah, actually. I have only ever read the book, so going into the movie, it's done for the most part pretty faithfully. There is the whole missing chapter thing, but that's a weird story.
Yeah, and if we get into that, I mean, we're going to spoil this movie, but
yeah,
it basically says a different, and that's not different from Kubrick to change the source material.
Well, we could talk about the ending when we get to the ending, because it's not like it wasn't intentional. It's really weird to explain.
And then we also have about the Kubrick pulling the movie himself.
Oh, he pulled the movie
in UK. He pulled the movie himself.
Oh, I did hear that.
He was worried about people committing crimes because of it.
Well, I guess there were a lot of copycat or something, and which is so the story it doesn't necessarily take place in the future as much. Yeah, it's a future, but it's not like a distant future. It's like kind of like a
alternative future,
a totalitarian.
Yeah,
but like a relatively inept totalitarian. It's like the government's totalitarian, but the people just kind of like
do whatever they want.
They run amok in the street. Alex isn't necessarily the only who's played by Malcolm McDowell. Yeah, there's a bunch of different gangs. We're all kind of shitty people. Violence is kind of rampant, and that's made prevalent in the opening of the movie when they attack the bum.
Yeah, for no reason.
Right, for no reason. He said, there is no law and order anymore. We put a man on the moon and, we leave the earth to rot. I mean...
And then you get all the crazy conspiracy theories with Kubrick and the moon.
Right.
I don't give a shit. Don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
We could go in that direction. No, yeah, well, they were going to film the fake moon landing, but then when Roswell happened and they had to get the aliens, like, well, okay, well, we
move along.
We're filming the fake moon landing here, and okay, so what is this movie about? Is it about, free choice? So you have a totalitarian government that has no control, and so it starts this program where, hey, we can get rid of crime if we make you violently ill towards it.
They have systems for that for alcoholics.
Yeah.
They give you medicine that if you drink alcohol, you get violently ill.
Right, smoking.
They do the same thing with the gastric bypass. When you eat those foods, you just get sick, and it's not good for you. And you actually feel sick, from my understanding. So like... It does answer, it brings up a lot of these questions. The priest says that, too. He says, if they have no free will, you're just making zombies. But I think some of the favorite interactions are actually from the guy who takes over. I think, is he a governor, or who is he? He's some sort of political...
He's the minister,
Prime Minister?
He's not the prime minister, but he is the minister of something, like civil affairs.
Anyways, this guy is wonderful, and he reminds me of Ruggero Deodato.
He looks like Deodato mixed with, Peter Cushing.
He's Peter Cushing mixed with Ruggero Deodato. And he has this wonderful, every time he talks, when he goes in initially, he's supposed to head this program where you're going to, cause the prisoners to be so violently ill from it. And he just seems to want to do this as fast as possible. And at the very ending, of course, it goes wrong. And he's kind of, the finger's pointed at him to blame. And it's just perfect that he's rubbing shoulders with this politician, this violent sociopathic criminal, now free to do whatever he wants, basically rubbing elbows and getting force-fed, not force-fed, but fed, weighted hand and foot. I just love that whole little touch right there at the end.
Well, and so it's not necessarily that the experiment goes wrong. It is really technically a success. Like, Alex is unable to act violently,
but it's like
towards
taking
another
a
person.
Cat's front claws off.
Exactly. The problem is that you not everybody in society has had this done, and so there's an opposing resistance to the government, and that's had by the writer, who was
Patrick Magny,
right, who was actually one of Alex's victims.
That reveal when he realizes it,
right. Well, so let's not go there yet.
Okay.
So he is trying to fight against the government, to like, oh, they're taking away your control, your free will, and look what happened to you. You got thrashed, you poor boy, and let me take you in, and we're going to make an example of you, and we'll overthrow this government. I got people that can help you. And then, of course,
he realizes who he is. In the very beginning, him and his wife were attacked viciously.
Right.
And his wife actually died afterwards.
Right.
But his reveal is completely over the top. And I'm surprised Kubrick allowed him, because Patrick Magny is I don't want to say he's a Vincent Price type, but I think he is. He is that caliber. Every time you see him, he's a little over the top. He's a little classically trained in a lot of ways. And a lot of these actors do seem so. And they're perfect for it. And Magny he absolutely steals the movie and his moments. And when he has that meltdown where he's shaking like that, and he's he wants to he starts becoming the person that wants to fight against the systematic bullshit that he sees.
Right.
But he can't help himself but to get revenge. Therefore, having the free will it's just really funny, because you would do that, and a lot of people see a real cynical thing in there, but the line that sticks out to me is try the wine,
or before he's like, how's the food, and he's just so loud. It's he's clearly unhinged at this point.
That's why I know we were gonna do the Amicus and watch all the Amicus movies in order, but I really want you to see Tales from the Crypt, because he is in this one called Blind Allies. Or is it Blind Allies? I always mix it up. But he's tremendous in it. And there's one with Peter Cushing in it, too, that's really good. And I'm I can't believe you have never seen 1972's Tales from the Crypt. It's such a good movie. I think you would like it better than Creepshow, because I know you're not a big anthology fan. I am, obviously.
Yeah,
I love
it's weird with anthologies. I don't know. They're okay, but I feel with an anthology, you get one good one and then 3 meh ones.
Almost all of them are good in the Tales from the Crypt. I like all of them. They range in quality, though.
Right.
Some are 5 out of, some are 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I've seen some fantastic Tales from the Crypt. It's I'm not a stranger to them.
Well, that's a TV show. The movie's different. It's classic.
Oh, yeah,
it's 72 Amicus, and then the Vault of Force, the same deal, and From Beyond the Grave, similar. So yeah, I just, the acting's great in here, and I want to point out, I think his name is Is his name Deltoid? The guy, the school guy, the parole officer school guy? He is such a creep, and he's yes,
he's the guy from The Simpsons. I had a stroke guy.
That guy, I think that guy's based on Vincent Price.
Right, yeah.
He's great in it. Everybody's great in it, and I don't even know, would you consider the style of the houses, they call it Art Deco? Or what is it, futuristic nonsense?
No, it's mid-century modern. I mean, they're 70s style houses, 70s style sensibilities, but they do try to kind of push it towards that sterile Jetsons future, it's utopian and dystopian, and people lay on stairs, and it's just this.
The movie does have a misogynistic quality to the society, you would think so, because even the tables are women, so these
yeah,
and all the women in the movie are treated so poorly. In the beginning, the gangs are fighting who gets to rape this woman, all sorts of shit like that. So I don't think, obviously Kubrick is not that. I don't think just because a director puts something in a movie or a writer doesn't mean that they're just saying that this is the society, or this is you know what I mean. It's but it brings up a lot of stuff, and I've seen a lot of people just not be able to take it because they said they don't like it because it's just so cynical. But I have a really dark sense of humor, so I feel it's kind of that way too. Have you ever seen Ghost of the Civil Dead? It's a prison film, and in the movie, they're really strict and they beat down their criminals, and they don't want to lose funding because they don't want the more leftist approach to the prison, to where they actually are trying to actually put people better in society. So what they do is they release the most violent prisoner on purpose because they know he's going to fuck up in society, so society can point at him and say, hey, we told you this would happen, but you wanted to put them back out in there and he committed a violent crime, so we are right and we want the same control. Like that, it's just a weird touch about it. And this movie kind of feels that I don't even know what it's trying to say, because it's trying to say like the worst person got off. You know what I mean? Like he gets to walk away.
Who's the worst person?
Well, who is really
right,
Malcolm
right.
McDowell? Yeah, or the society it's been created.
Right. So I don't necessarily know that the movie's cynical, but again, I am I was familiar with the book first, and so the book does explain some things I think a bit more. The movie necessarily isn't. Yeah, society's kind of meh. But the totalitarian government is also an ineffective government, as governments can sometimes be. I don't think that it's cynical. It's because, the world's shitty, but if you want your crystal utopia, what do you take away? You take away your free choice.
Yeah.
You take away your ability to be who you are. Like at the end of the day, who you are is who you are, and if that's removed, like if Alex cannot be Alex, then what is he? Well, he's the Clockwork Orange. He's something that is organic and created in nature, but at the same time, he's an automaton. He's artificial. That's what.
Well, it's body snatchers.
Oh, yeah.
The Invasion of Body Snatchers.
Oh,
They're all perfect. There's no violence, but they're all. They're
Body Snatchers is
well, that's
entirely...
the story. That's what their argument was in there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there'll be no war. There'll be none of this.
Right, but Body Snatchers, it's a replacement of. But in this case, it's closer to like Sonic the Hedgehog, where they roboticize the animals.
Well, no, it's also the same as like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in a lot of ways. Because they lobotomize the people, and they send in the book. They mention that like they even like the book's different from the film, but they mention one of these people that was lobotomized. Even they think the rumor was he even went and got married, but it's just zombies.
I had always thought that these were that Clockwork Orange and Cuckoo's Nest were related, but and I think it's one because like they have the same covers on the DVD, like the same style.
They're both
the
Warner
same
Brothers.
company, but there's connections in both books too. Like how mental patients are treated. Obviously you have the stuff in Cuckoo's Nest. The drugs, the lobotomization, and really what I can't remember what the name of the experiment is in this offhand in Clockwork Orange, but it's really a type of lobotomy. I mean, it's not, but it's like the Pavlov dog ringing bell thing.
Yeah.
Conditioned response. There we go. Yes. So the movie does come across as cynical, but when the book was published back in the 70s, it had an extra chapter. When it was, and he was a British author. When they moved it over to America, the American publishers were like, we don't want the last chapter in there. We think that it's a more impactful book without the final coda. And that's the book that Kubrick read. So that's the movie that he made, and it wasn't until he was nearly done. So they say that he realized, there's an additional chapter, but
he didn't like it, or he just was like,
well, it's already, the movie, I think at that point was already done.
Malcolm McDowell in the movie is fucking great.
Oh, yeah. But I want to talk about the other chapter.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I know. I didn't know what you're getting into. I didn't know if you're going to keep going into it. But the other chapter in the book.
So the other chapter in the book, because, you look at the movie, it's cynical, but if you... it's cynical in the movie, but the book itself is that in time, Alex learns to just be Alex, and he learns to make the conscious choice to be a good person. That, that these acts of violence, however intense that they are just what you do in your youth.
And I don't know if that works as well, because we don't have an inner monologue. Does the book have an inner monologue of Alex, or no? Like, we do have narration of Alex, but it's all about just what he's planning on doing in the violence. But, like, so the way he's portrayed, he seems to be irreversible by his own intent. But do you think that him going through what he did actually helped him?
No, because when
you think he's just saying eventually you'll grow out of it?
So in the book, Alex is much younger. He's like a 16, 17-year-old.
And I think he's supposed to be here too. It's just...
Yeah, I think they did age him up maybe to like 18, 19. But like, and even at that age, when you're, late teen, it is, like you versus the fucking world. Like you have figured everything out. Nobody can tell you how to live your life. You've already solved the world. You're going to change the world. You're going to be the greatest thing for this planet. I mean, and is that not what Alex is? Alex is an incredibly proud person. He has his ideas. He wants to do the things he wants to do. He doesn't want to go to school. He wants to go out all night and, have sex and be violent and get in fist fights and, do drugs. And like, isn't that what, hooligan kids do? And then, they get to their, late 20s and 30s and hopefully the world beat them down and not that like, okay, I just have to be a good person.
I just have to get a job.
Right. It's just, it's that saying that like, unfortunately we exist in a society, and
but at the end of this one suggests that he just went back to doing what he did and probably got away scot-free, even with ties to politicians.
I would say that in the end of the movie, it's not that he went to how he was. It was so when the minister is feeding him, it's like, look,
the politician guy. I know.
Yeah. When I say minister, I mean
we got you.
Okay, yeah. So he's saying, look, there are people out there that want to corrupt you and may have you be an example. We're going to lose that election. We're going to if people see our flaws in our process, but if you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. So
we'll let you go.
It's not that. So he gives him a job in the government.
Yeah, he helps him out.
He's going to help him out, but in order to do that, he has to be a good person. In the end of the movie, it's like Alex gets to be Alex.
He doesn't necessarily have to be a good person. He just has to tell them that it wasn't their fault and to the public, so they get the public to not just blame this guy for everything. So that's what he's
right. Alex gets to be Alex. He gets to have his thoughts of like, sex and violence, but he must be a good person. Like he must
follow the rules.
He must follow the rules, or possibly follow the rules. And yeah, they leave it open. And again, they do cut it short.
And they do show you that he is still obsessed with the things he was obsessed. But therefore, that shows you that maybe more people in society are thinking all these thoughts all the time.
Oh, don't we all have? Right.
But I'm just saying, so that way.
Right. You must have, self-control.
And another thing we should mention is how Kubrick uses like classical music and just to like perfection, right? Everything's wonderful, but there's nothing wrong with any of the cinematography, acting, music choices. All that's going to be spot on, no matter what. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, it is in Creature Features, and I find it interesting to read something by John Stanley just to see what he thinks about A Clockwork Orange. 4 out of 5. Writer, producer, director Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece on brainwashing and the price we pay for conformity. Based on Andy Burgess's novel, the setting is the not-too-distant future of England, where droogs, ruffians, and malcontents rove the countryside, pillaging and raping. One of these youths, Malcolm McDowell, is arrested for murder. He is processed through a rehab center until he reaches a pacifistic state. The Kubrick touch dominates this usual tale. Patrick Magny, Michael Bates, Adrian Corey, David Prowse. Darth Vader. That's David Prowse. Yeah. So yeah, he gave it 4 out of 5. I'm 5 out of 5. 10 out of 10. It's a classic.
I'm 5 out of 5.
How could you not?
Going with calling them droogs. So the original author was he wasn't like an author. He wasn't like a novelist. He was actually a linguist. And in writing this book, he makes his own language. That Alex and his little cohorts, his droogs speak.
The drink is one he made up too. The name of the drink, I believe. The milk. The milk.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember what it's called.
Well, they what he does in his language is he takes like Russian words, like Russian slang, like Slavic slang, UK slang, and like Shakespeare, and he kind of like mishmashes them. So like when you're watching the movie, you don't know these words, these terminologies. They don't take the time to explain that, like, droog is like a Russian slang word for teenager.
Well, you get it as a thug or a goon or a ruffian.
Like, he has that word that, what's he called, testicles, when he's about to fight the one guy. But they have all these words, but
and the head too. What he says in his head,
right? But you pick that up via the context, like, and even in the book, at least the one I had didn't really have like a dictionary or anything. Like, you just had to figure it out by context, and I think that was really neat, and it's actually why I read the book in the first place.
You can figure out most things by context. Unless all of it is in a language you don't understand. Then you're kind of SOL.
Yeah, so it's just like a really neat, flowery way of, like, I think, talking, and reading the book is actually a huge joy. And then watching the movie and seeing it put in use is, I think, fantastic. But yeah, I would totally give this a 5-star movie. I absolutely adored it.
And it's a huge cult classic. Many people love it. Do you think that some people take the wrong thing away from this kind of movie? Yeah, that's what Kubrick was worried about.
I think it's possible. So, like, this is coming at, like, right at the start of like the censorship and like the Margaret Thatcher conservative movement, because like when of the naughty list happens?
The Video Nasty started in the late 70s, early 80s.
Late 70s,
yeah,
early
the Video
80s.
Store is kind of when it happened. So
right, and so but isn't it funny that like Kubrick makes this ultra sexual, ultra violent, film, and
it's based off a well-respected book.
So he makes this like super shocking, super like, oh my god, how can anybody watch this? And it's going to torment society, and all the kids are going to run amok, and like what's the treatment for Alex? Alex has to watch ultra sexual and ultra violent films, and it causes him to have revulsion.
But they give him drugs too.
They do give him drugs. Yes, you're absolutely
he
right.
Hates Beethoven's Ninth because of it. He's sick of it.
So in the actual book, Alex likes all music. It's not just Beethoven, but he, because of the music playing, he not only does he have the aversion to sex and violence, but also music, and that's what drives him. All music, and that's what drives him to suicide. While in this one, it's specifically Beethoven. So I think it's a fun motif because it pops up, so many times throughout the film. Like his fascination of Beethoven is, I think, just a really fun thing that the character has.
We should mention the other Droogs, Dim in particular.
Yeah,
like I love that. Like the two most violent of the Droogs besides himself ended up being the cops that pick him up, and they're just like you want to hire the most brutal thugs to put society in line,
right? And I think that's a commentary on something else. I will say that that part is different in the book, where it's a cop that abuses Alex isn't his former cohorts. You actually find out that I think one or two of them, at least I know Georgie dies, but the cop that he runs into is actually the other gang, Billy.
Oh, which makes a little bit more sense.
Right. But in the movie version they changed it to to his former cohorts. Dim and Georgie. And they never do anything with the third guy, and I always forget his name.
Oh yeah, he doesn't do much.
Yeah. Another big change. So in the scene where he picks up the two girls at the record store, and
they're like 13, 14, aren't they, in the book?
Probably younger than that, and it's not like a consensual scene. It's it's like violent rape. So
there's a lot of that in this movie, so be warned.
Yeah, lots of rapes, lots of sex and violence. It's the good old in and out.
It's a classic, and not much more we can say. What are we watching next week?
Oh, I get to pick next week, don't I? Yeah.
I did you a solid.
You did do me a solid. I didn't even think about it because I thought that I picked this movie. I don't know. Oh, do you want to watch the second part of that vampire movie?
Sure, it's short. We'll do it.
Short and easy. So it's I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah, because not very memorable.
Kitaguri?
That sounds right.
That sounds also
right. Delicious.
I just said a random Japanese word.
Is that some sort of like delicious food?
I have no idea.
We're done.
Bye, guys.
Okay, let's get into these questions, comments, concerns, all that good stuff. So last week I asked you a movie that you loved back in the day as a kid that doesn't hold up now. So, yep. So Bad Brains Horror. Hey, Dave, that Fade to Black release was awesome. I picked up Raven Bander's The Sadness. Looks like one of the best zombie movies for ages. I'm behind on the secret top 10 videos. Looking forward to all of them. Keep up the hard work. I really want to check out the Evil Dead Trap 2 from On Earth. Yeah, the sadness is great. Evil Dead Trap 2 is definitely worth watching too. Brian Sattler, or BSAT, sorry, wrongfully accused. And then Daniel Startek. Get a shave, put on a shirt, and get a job. I have a job. I don't have to wear a fucking shirt. I was wearing a shirt. And, dude, stop. Get help. So, and then Nick Mua, your show continues to be a breath of fresh air on a weekly basis, sir. Thank you. And this weather, we can use it. Though I loved and continue to love original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, has lost its charm for me. It's just too goofy. Go Ninja, yikes. So many of these superhero franchises devolve into silliness. Superman, Batman, the MCU, what gives? I feel like, though, a lot of the stuff, the subject material is goofy, so I think they should just follow the subject material. As far as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, that was directly made for kids, so now that you're older, it probably doesn't hold up. So it happened with me as well. Which monster works best in horror comedy? It really all depends. I mean, zombies are easy to do anything with. You can have them scary, funny, Return of the Living Dead, or you can have them goofy, funny, Shaun of the Dead. So, I mean, probably zombies just because they're the most versatile. Vampires can be versatile too. Which monster doesn't lend itself to comedy at all? I mean, you think Mummy, but of course you have Abbott Costello meet the Mummy. You can do anything, really. I mean, any movie can be comedic, I guess, right? I'm trying to think. Sea Creature, you have They Bite. It's just all sorts of things. Like, I don't think there's any distinct monster that's not very funny. There's not very many Golem movies, but hey, Frankenstein's kind of like a Golem-like creature himself, and there's Young Frankenstein. So, like, I don't know if there's any distinct monster that's just not very funny in general that you couldn't use. Unless it's just something really gross. I mean, like, I'm sure there are some that are just, like, way too gross or offensive to use in any comedy that works. What's the best horror movie documentary to date, according to you? Now, I don't know if I have any personal, like, I don't have any, objectivity. What's the best? I don't. I mean, I like Document of the Dead because it's a subject I love. But as far as the best horror documentary, I can't really give you one. But I say Document of the Dead I really like. Have some fun in the sun. I'm starting to get, like, these weird, like, I'm starting to get burnt. I'm getting old. I'm getting those sunspots on my face because of the sun. Ilk Vomit. I can't believe I live in a world where Uncle Sam is on 4K. I'm still sitting here waiting for Todd Browning's Freaks to get a 480p release. Right? Thanks, Warner Brothers. We want fucking Freaks on a 4K. Do Gulag. I remember renting Funeral Home on Paragon VHS as a kid. Seemed too classy for Paragon. That's what I want on my funeral, on my tombstone. Too classy for Paragon. I love that. Ken Coakley. Fade to Black is my favorite from that year. My theory about Eric Binford is that he would have snapped no matter what he was into. I think, like me, he had Asperger's and had the same obsession as myself. I talk movies 24/7, but never used my knowledge to fight off bullies, and there were plenty of those. If I tried to tell my older brother anything about movies, he would reply, "Nobody cares." I know the feeling. Also, like Binford, I went around not knowing what I had. I was born in 1966, and Hans Asperger didn't give it the name until 94. So I was pushed around until I grew my hair long and dressed like I was in a thrash metal band, as did my friends. The bullying stopped. My mother saw Fade to Black when I was at school, and she flipped out. She was under the impression that I was going to do what he did. She forgot that I was then, and still am, into faith-based movies, especially ones with Jesus in them. While I do have long hair and a beard, and am compassionate towards animals and less fortunate people, my compassion is just part of my nature. Jesus was about peace, as I am, but I became furious when I hear about animal cruelty and child abuse. Once again, I was just wired that way. Yeah, I mean, like, everybody's completely different. I mean, I think anybody that was into horror films or that kind of stuff, at one point, extremely, people were like, "Oh, you're gonna snap," I don't think it's an entity that's not typical, I mean, not entity, but a thing that's not typical. RB, I try to stay mostly positive, but I'm going to sound like a hater here. There's a lot of movies I loved as a kid that don't hold up for me now. Any of the Rambo movies, any Rocky movie after Part 2. I liked Top Gun as a kid and watched it a couple years ago and thought it was very mediocre, to say the least. Here's why I'll probably get the heat. I'm not a big fan of Nightmare on Elm Street movies as an adult. I rarely ever give them a rewatch. I'll also throw in Gremlins, Pet Sematary 2, Children of the Corn, and Sleepaway Camp. Love those movies as a kid, but not so much anymore. Oh, that hurts. Travis Linscomb, I would say Night of the Hunted is actually not typical of John Roland's work because it's in the cityscapes instead of gothic castles or cloudy beaches. It's got a cold, futuristic feel about it, like John Roland doing Cronenberg. It's also got a sci-fi bend that his work doesn't usually have. Very good points, very true. I would just say, though, that tonally and pacing is very much John Roland, and it looks like it. Again, location does change, and you are right, and I'm sure you've seen more John Roland movies than me, but when I compare it to like Grapes of Death and stuff, it does have a lot of similarities just in the tone and the characters and stuff like that. Dega Renal, Macamee, possibly the most expensive Pepsi commercial of all time. Joe Graciano, I can only watch the MTSK version of it. And Dan Keenan, please do not disrespect Coke like that. I'm definitely going to lose my audio at one point, but I'm going to roll with it, guys. Sorry. So it's going to cut to camera audio. It shouldn't be that big of a deal for you. David Gibson, this is for my teens, but I revisited The Crow and it's utter garbage. I really liked it when it came out, but I think I was influenced more by the soundtrack and the loss of Jason instead of the film itself. So is it Brandon Lee or Jason is the character's name? I don't remember the character's name. And then we have Danger Renault. I used to think the guitar solo was so freaking cool. Nathan Rumler. I rewatched that movie for the first time since my teens very recently too. Felt the same exact way. Did not hold up for me at all. Cool soundtrack though. Haha. Peter McCain. Yeah, I couldn't finish it. And Thomas Gleba. Right? In all respect for the late Brandon Lee, but it's not like he was a super gifted legendary thespian like people who worship the film as some gothic masterpiece make him out to be. And I completely on the same page. When I rewatched it, I never loved it that much as a kid. I liked it, but rewatched it, I realized that some of the locations were cool and the character actors in it were cool, but it's just really hard for me to watch. I cringe a lot. Daniel Carson, it's not horror, but Chomps is really terrible. Belladonna. I recently rewatched 976 Evil 2 and it was so awful. I loved it as a kid though. And the Full Moon Movie Arcade, maybe it's the effects. I didn't hate 967 Evil 2, but I didn't love it as a kid either. I watched it for the first time for a couple years ago. John Grizafi, Food of the Gods. Yeah. I liked that movie as a kid. I haven't rewatched it, and I just remember like numerous rats really getting shot, and I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to rewatch it. I know whatever. I'll rewatch it eventually, but it's just like not looking forward to seeing a bunch of rats get shot for Food of the Gods. Rebecca Lacey Liu, Dead Dudes in the House. Rebecca Reinhardt. Oh God, I bought that VHS release because I remember liking it as a kid. Let's just say that was $30-$40 I'll never get back. They make some jokes about it. Yeah, so it seems like they really liked it. They're going to do a drunk commentary for their show, Slumber Party Massacre Podcast, which is a really good show. Christopher Webb, Godzilla 98, Rich Rabbit, Summer Camp Nightmare, and I guess Neil Malloy still loves it. Jonathan Knight, nothing. If you guys don't know Jonathan Knight, he does B-Movie Madness on YouTube. Check him out. Neil Lemoy, Spaceballs, right? Sebastian Sanjaro Aries, Super Mario Brothers. Kayla Gray, I love Jason X as a teenager. Then I grew up and realized I only liked the Frozen Head Smash scene and the rest of it trash. Brandon Terry, Frozen Head Smash and the virtual campsite scene. Oh, yeah. Okay. Mike Mitchell, Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. Somebody makes a joke that never held up. Jamal Potter. Cody Billings, Eight-Legged Freaks. Joachim Johansson, Godzilla 98. Scott Philip Jorgensen's Wayne's World. Jamie J. Salmons, Terrorvision. Hurting me. She replies to somebody. She says it bores her now. Sorry. Corella Waring, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. It's actually a really dark, messed up film. Watched it a few years ago and was blown away at how fucked up it was. Hell, the main bad guy is eaten by a murder of crows at the end, and that's all. And all that's left is his fake eye. Like, should have been traumatizing. Definitely thought it was great as a kid, though. LOL. Matthew Canner, GoBots, Battle of the Rock Lords. Brooklyn Ewing, A Cabin Boy. Bill Casanelli, Dead Hate the Living. Marcus Cook, Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. I love that it's called Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. It cracks me up. Gabrielle Juliet, Godzilla 98, Jason Wallace. That didn't hold up to begin with. And then Cal Rayburn, Spawn, minus John Leguizamo. John Bludgeon, I wasn't a kid when it came out, but rewatch Idle Hands didn't play as well as it did 20 years ago. Cody Lee Harden, Abraxas. Peter England's 007 Moonraker, including still one of the best openings James Bond movie history. Mike Merriman, Friday 7. Jason Patrick, Power Rangers. Abigail Dagon, Children of the Corn, Thomas Gleba, Outlander, We Have Your Woman is cringy as fuck. Who wrote that and thought it was good? She mentions, I absolutely loved that movie as a kid and as a teen. If years ago I wanted to show it to my boyfriend at the time and we had not seen it, he was like, really? I couldn't believe how bad it was. Thomas Gleba. Children of the Corn is hot buttered dog shit. I don't think it's that bad, but I don't think it's a masterpiece, of course. JP Andricka. I like the later sequels. Rarely is there cheesy B movies. Carol Downing. The first movie is awful, and I felt that the fact that it inspired forgot how many sequels is mind-blowing. Brandon Young, Dolls, Saturday the 14th, Howard the Duck, should have left those in my past. Christopher Luciani, Explorers. JP Andrika, I'd imagine many movies I loved as a kid wouldn't hold up. Jawbreaker was always a third-rate Heathers knockoff. It had a decent cast and soundtrack, though, but the movie was never that good. Many shows I enjoyed as a teen are just corny and cringe-inducing now. David Russ, JP Andrika, Jawbreaker was awful. Saw that a few months ago, and yeah, it didn't hold up at all. Now American Pie I saw last year, and it held up well. Eurotrip is another one that held up well. I'm going to watch Tomcat soon as if... see if that one held up. David Russ, The Witches. I think that's what it's called. And when the two boys turn into rats, it is. Brian Paulin, a lot of slasher movies. Jonathan Talbot, The Spawn. Jonathan Edward Smith, The Pumpkin Carver, LOL. And for some reason, I also watched Axum at least 20 times as a kid. And holy shit, it's so bad. Damon Rickard, Police Academy 2. Priscilla Mann, Man with the X-Ray Eyes. Eric Whiting, Godzilla 98, Flight of the Intruder, Mission Impossible 2, Star Wars Episode 1, Laura Croft Tomb Raider. I still like and can watch all those, but they are heavily flawed. I used to say Space Jam, but it has done a 180 and become the perfect time capsule of everything 90s, so it has its merits. Carol Downing, Phantasm, the first movie that thought it was scary back then, and although it has its cool moments, it's not scary anymore. Richard Taylor, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. This is funny. JM Channel, Richard Taylor. Yeah, watching this as an adult, I'm like, this isn't realistic at all. Richard Taylor, LOL. Not about realism, just doesn't hold up. Not as fun as I remember when I saw it as a kid. I was excited to show my youngest son the film, and it was let down. Garbage Pail Kids is another one that doesn't hold up well at all. J.M. Chanel, it's cool. I'm just goofing. It's one of my favorite things to do when jokingly critiquing a movie. You know, I caught that new Toy Story the other day, and I gotta say, not very believable. Skip Barber, I answered the question last week when you asked Hitchcock's The Trouble. He says with Charlie, I think he means Harry. And then Aaron R. Ryan, Space Jam, a sad face, LOL. Sam Kelly Mills, I realized how old I am seeing the films on this list. Maybe I make an observation because I'm finding that the films I grew up with the 70s and 80s feel like classics now, where the flaws are charming. A movie 10, 20 years old seems dated. Films 30 years old feel timeless. I understand what you're saying. Since we're going to talk a little bit, I'm going to show a movie book. I want to know what your favorite horror film or movie books are. You know, like if it's by like a Tim Lucas book or anything. What is your favorite, you know, kind of research book about films? You know, there's tons of them. Troy Howarth writes some. House of Psychotic Women. Any of those. What is your favorite kind of, you know, research book or informational book about films? So let me know. That's the question of the week. Let's get into this update. All right, let's hop into this update. First up is Captain Invincible from Severn Films with Alan Arkin and Christopher Lee. The Return of Captain Invincible, I'm sorry. I've heard of this briefly, and I heard about it on the Severn podcast as well. Sounds like a lot of fun. Pretty cool. 2 discs in here, theatrical cut, director's cut. Anyways, yeah, very cool. Christopher Lee in a superhero flick. And Alan Arkin. Strange cast, right? Then we have this Christopher Lee box set, Bumping the Camera. Of course, you gotta bump the camera. It's a Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee Collection Volume 2. Nice. It's got Uncle Was a Vampire, The Secret of the Red Orchid, Dark Places, Dracula and Son, Murder Story, 7 disc, and book set, 6 Blu-rays, 1 CD. That is awesome. Anyways, it'll go right next to the first one. I love that. So, anyways, good stuff. I've always wanted to see Dark Places, and Murder Story are ones I definitely knew about, Dracula and Son. So anyways, it's very cool. Love Christopher Lee. And then we have some other Blu-rays here. We have X-Cross, which is the newer release of X-Cross from Media Blasters or Tokyo Shock. I think it's supposed to be a better print on there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so not seen this one. Let me know if it's any good. Then we have Alive, which just got released on Blu-ray from Media Blasters by the director of Versus, right? So you gotta love that. Very cool. I love that Media Blasters is back, and they're releasing lots of cool stuff on Blu-ray. So we have Doomed Megalopolis Mega Omnibus Edition. So this looks awesome. It's like an anime. I think it's an OVA. I don't know how long it is. How many episodes? The entire runtime, 130. So it's a little 2 hours and 15 minutes. Looks cool. I know they made 2 live-action movies based off this, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And then again, we have The Rise of Machine Girl from Media Blasters. This looks cool. I like the first... No, I've never seen the first Machine Girls. I was thinking Tokyo Gore Police. I think there's kind of like a sequel to that as well. So I definitely have the first Machine Girl. I don't even know if I have that on Blu-ray. It might just be a DVD. I don't remember everything anymore. But yeah, maybe I'll watch both of those together. And then we have Black Rat. This looks pretty cool. Another Asian flick. 7 Little Mice. Yes. From Fudisaka, who directed Battle Royale 2 and X-Cross. Very cool. And then last, the Asian or the Japanese Blu-rays is Uzumaki, which I've had on DVD. Elite put this out. Got a Blu-ray here, so very cool. I grabbed this. Discotheque Media putting out Blu-rays again. I know they didn't go away, but it feels like they weren't putting out much that I was interested in or I didn't know about. So now they are. Well, they were putting out, I think, just animes and stuff, but now they're putting out some more live-action stuff. And I do buy some of the anime, so very cool. Then we have X by, of course, Ty West. I heard great things about this. Super interested in watching this for sure. Yeah, it's getting some great reviews from people. And then on DVD, we have The Reap of Evil, which is Brian Paulin, one of his first films. It's a short film from first full-length movie film between 92 and 94. Hidden for over 20 years, so I'm sure there's some cool, gnarly special effects in there. Got it off the Marketplace on Facebook. And last up, if I can show the whole thing, I'll zoom out a little bit, is the Splintered Visions, Lucio Fulci and his films by Troy Howarth. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, just lots of great stuff in here. I've only got a chance to start look through it and read one of the reviews, but he goes over all his movies. Of course, we have Zombie in there, Gates of Hell, all the classics. So pretty cool. Black Cat, The Beyond. You gotta love that. There's also interviews with people on here. Troy's a cool dude. Jared Martin interview for New Gladiators. So yeah, if it sounds like it's up your alley, go pick it up on Amazon. Yeah, I guess we're gonna do the Patreon drawing. Draw 5 names for the people. What do we got here? First up is Chris Rivers, Something I Want I Haven't Had Time to Watch. Okay, very cool. Easy one. There's tons of those. Something I haven't had a chance to watch that I wanted to. Then we have Jonathan Wilhelm's Silent Rage with Chuck Norris, of all people. Who else pops up here? Okay, James Baker, Kiss of the Damned, which I wanted to see. So let's get 2 more out of here. Tom Brooker, The Devil All the Time, which honestly, it doesn't look like I'm going to like that one. I did watch a chunk of that back in the day when it put on Netflix. Dan the cameraman, filmmaker I haven't seen, named Dave or David. Okay, that might be a little difficult, but there we go. That's the 5 picks. Again, if you haven't been drawn out in the last few cycles, hit me up and you'll get to skip ahead and get to pick a movie. Anyways, back to the video. So thank you very much, guys, for watching, and as always, have a good one.